Hi, I'm Deanne Carter. Hey, today we're going to talk about how to keep yourself sane no matter what kind of stress you're under. That's the reality, is that sometimes we're just in a workplace that, the team isn't working as a team, that it's become a very, scarcity and let's not support each other, let's be against each other and survival mode. And it's just very overwhelming. And I can tell you that from 20 years of experience working with people and people who have experienced severe traumas, that it's about breaking it down to the moment by moment. How do we resource ourselves the best? How do we do what we can with what we have moment by moment, despite all this other stuff going on? And it's really tempting for our mind to go to that place of, well, but, and into that blame or those shoulds or that all or nothing thinking. And it's really a place of bargaining, like if only these things were different, or if this person would see the error of their ways, or if the company would evaluate me for the work that I actually do or have a clue, all of that is not unreasonable to think, and yet it's a dead end. It keeps you in the loop of playing victim or feeling disempowered or focusing on the things that already exist and not activating your mind in ways that can see new possibilities. So let's talk about that for a minute. So our brain creates routines and strategies that are known come from that place. So when I get in my car to drive, my brain says, oh, I know how to do that. And it opens up that category. Now, sure, there might be some things stored in that area, like big trucks are scary. So say early on when I was learning how to drive, there was an incident with a big truck. My brain has stored that information. So on a primitive level, without me even knowing it, whenever there's big trucks, I might be a little bit more like, oh. But it will use strategies that were stored from that time too, right? So maybe I slow down, maybe I try to get away from them, but my brain is going to already known information. This is how it could go, right? So it's doing that to be efficient and not have to come up with new strategies, because right now I'm trying to figure out how to stay in between the lines or stay safe. And that's just how our brain works. But that doesn't serve us when we are under chronic stress, because then we keep replaying the same thing. And it's really hard to be creative and take a breath or see if there's other possibilities. Our brain will continuously go to, but I can't do that because, or if I do that, then. And that's totally understandable. That's what happens in our threat mode. And so I want to talk about a couple strategies to try to get ourselves out of that. Okay, so for one, consider some things that in your life 10 years ago you didn't know. Like, so just think back on, and maybe you have to go 20 years ago, wow, when I was in my 20s, I thought relationships, if you just show up and you do your best and you think the best of people and you just keep trying, that relationships will work out just fine. Well, maybe that attracted people who would take advantage or were okay with, not keeping their commitments, and you would talk about it and rally, and they would say again, okay, I get it, I'm going to do it differently, and you stuck around, right? Because you believed that, this is just what we do for each other in relationships. Well, maybe 20 years later, you've done enough of that you now go more by people's behavior, right? Like you're willing to give somebody a chance, you're willing to talk it out. Hey, what happened? Or I noticed that we make these plans, it didn't work out. I really need you to let me know ahead of time or check in. And you've started to change your strategies, right? That's your brain updating in that situation. But the more stress we're under, the more we revert back to those old strategies. So think back on what's something that you know now that you didn't 10 or 20 years ago. And then what I want you to do is see if you can get quiet, and maybe you don't do that this minute, but see if you can get quiet and in a more meditative place, or however you get in your quiet place. And you know what, if you can't, then do it while you're brushing your teeth or you're in the shower and there's fewer distractions, okay? I want you to think about picturing yourself 10 years from now, or maybe even 20 years from now. And just imagining that you have been growing your whole life, right? You have different insights and strategies along the way. We all grow, but see if you can imagine that one speaking to you. Like, play it out like a movie clip. Like, what would that one want to say in terms of course, you're doing the best you can, or this is really a tough situation. And see if as that conversation unfolds, that one has any advice for you. You know, like we hear those sayings of, you know, people on their deathbed don't say, geez, I wish I worked more. You know, they say, wow, I really wish I went to more of the kids' games, or I wish I was more present for the beauty and appreciating what was. And that's so hard to hear when we're in a place of chronic stress, because it feels like people are saying like you're failing or you're not doing it right, which is going to activate us even more in. But it's not my fault. If you knew that there was only these things going on, and if those would change, then except they're not going to change. You know, and I know this from my own experience. I was at work at 2:30 in the morning. This was a 8 to 5 job. I was at work at 2:30 in the morning before I said, you know what? If I keep accomplishing all of this, this company is going to continue to give me these tasks because I'm showing them like I can do it. And I had trusted advisors at the time saying that, and I was so stuck in, no, but then the people that I care about won't get what they need, or my team won't be supported, and I really want to show up and be a team player. And yet there's that other part of me at the table, at my round table, my inner committee saying, but you're giving away your time and energy to this corporation as opposed to your life, right? So try that trick of 10 years from now. But then also think about if you have children, or if you think of younger people, how would you want to give them guidance or advice about their life, right? So if they came to you, and again, play it out as a movie clip, because this accesses a different part of your brain, not our thinking rational mind that can quickly go to that already stored information, but play it out like a movie clip. If you were hanging with your kid who's maybe now 25, I mean, you might have to imagine that if they're 5 years old, right? But they're older and they're saying all the things you hear yourself say. But it's a time of change and people are getting laid off. And if I don't show that I'm the best, then, so imagine them saying that and feel in your heart what that would feel like to receive that from them, and feel your empathy and your wishes for them. And then out of that will come different ideas or strategies or insights. And maybe you just sit with like, wow, I don't know how to fix that. I just know that you deserve a life that is more balanced than that. And maybe that's just where it starts, but it will start to change your story, how you are arranging your thoughts and perceptions around what's going on. So it's about becoming the creator of your day. Okay, so that's all fine and good in big philosophy, but let's try to break that down into more specifics, okay? Start with micro steps. It could be that you shut the bathroom door when you go to brush your teeth, and that even though somebody's banging on the door, you finish brushing your teeth before you attend to them. Or at work, that you walk in and that you haven't checked your emails before you come in and on the clock. And I understand those of you who are salaried, it doesn't feel like you're ever off the clock, but technically there's a time when you need to sleep and transport yourself and have a life. And so you come in and you get to your office and you start to work on, say you have a meeting in an hour. So you start to review that information, and there's emails that are there, sure, but you have a presentation. So it's starting to say, but this is the road I'm on right now. And there will always be more people who will challenge you to take the exit ramp or take the side road, or, hey, won't you come drive with me and show me how to do it? And I can tell you from experience, I've worked with people for over 20 years. So I've learned this myself, and also just watching people. And all I can say is that, yes, all of us are in our unique situation. I can say that I've worked with people who have been in some horrific, traumatic situations, and we apply this same strategy. And it does help start to lift the clouds and start to see some new possibilities. So maybe it's that during that meeting that you aren't answering emails because you're in that meeting. And then when somebody says, well, how come you didn't get back to me? Because I was in a meeting. And you'll start to notice that sometimes people work it out or they figure it out, or yes, there might need to be some follow-up and saying, so when I'm in a meeting, what are some of your other options? Or if it was to a superior who's saying, hey, you're not getting enough done, great, let's look at what my tasks are, and I am totally open to reorganizing or getting an assistant or farming some of this out or changing deadlines. And what I can tell you is that I'm being as mindful as I can and getting as much done as I can. So I'm going to leave you with this story, and I may not quote this very well, and I wish I had the author, but there was a book that somebody wrote. It was a piano tuner, and he used to work and be really diligent and work as hard as he could and try to get through the day and get as much done as he could, and he could never get the work done. And so one day he decided to do it mindfully, right? So I'm just going to be as fully present to the one thing I'm doing right now, just as an experiment, right? So, and just to see, maybe it's going to take me 5 times longer, but I'm just going to see what happens. And he actually got it done in far less time. And I hear stories like this of, an executive who gets promoted, but then works 4 days a week because they have used this mindful, creating my own destiny, right? Like moment by moment, I'm looking at what do I have control over? How do I stay focused on my top values, my goals? How do I communicate that, obviously, with my team and with whoever's doing my evaluations? But it will make a difference. And so the micro step of that is looking at what can you do with what you have right now. It's one thing you can change. Like if you are washing dishes, then feel the water, right? Like as opposed to thinking about, okay, now as soon as this, then I need to get that done. I need to get back on my laptop to get some work done, right? Or if I'm driving to work, then just be driving. The taking in the beauty, maybe there's some trees, or maybe it's the sunrise, or maybe it's just some fresh air when you get out of your car. I used to work in a windowless office, and so I had that walk from the parking lot into the building, right? But just letting that be a mindful moment will help resource your brain and give you more blood flow in that prefrontal cortex, that manager part of your brain that comes up with those new ideas and can inspire you moment by moment to look at what do I have control over, as opposed to be in that automatic, but I've got to go, that scarcity mode, right? There's threat. If I don't work better than everybody else, then I'm going to lose my job. However, the more mindful you are, the more creative, the more insightful, the more engaged you are. We know this from studying the brain. So try that this week. Just see what's one mindful thing you can do to try to have control over what you can to be the creator of your day. Easier said than done, but I'd love to hear your experience.